Hello everyone, welcome to PyNet Labs. Welcome to another webinar number 216. So my name is Chirag, and in this webinar today we will be exploring about Python variables and conditioning. So we have previously we have done one webinar related to Python topic, and in that webinar we covered how the Python can be installed, what are the basics of Python, why Python is being used nowadays, what are the data types of Pythons. So make sure you give it a look to that particular webinar to have a good understanding of Python basics. In this webinar today, we'll be looking more into the details of Python. We'll be looking into the Python operators. Then we'll understand how dictionaries and lists can be managed. We'll look into some nested dictionaries and nested lists, how we can fetch out particular data from these dictionaries and lists. Then we will also have some examples and some understanding of the conditioning into the Python. So we'll understand the if-else statements, we'll understand the for loops, and how we can define functions into the Python. So it's going to be an exciting one. I hope you all are ready to get started, and I welcome you back again. So let's begin without wasting any time. So I'll give you a quick overview of whatever we have learned in the previous webinar. So first of all, if I want to print something, or if I want to first of all enter into the interpreter of Python, I need to run the command python and I'll be able to enter into the interpreter. Now these three angular brackets represent that I am into the interpreter and I can perform Python related functions like print. If I say print and inside that I define some string like my name is Chirag, welcome to PyNet Labs, and then I close the parenthesis and hit enter, then it's going to print out my name is Chirag, welcome to PyNet Labs. So similarly you can print out various strings. Then there are some variables, or you can say containers, which can store the values. So for example, I can create a variable called name, and then inside that I can store the value Chirag. Then whenever I'll say print name, enter, that's going to print out Chirag because the container name contains the value Chirag. So that's how I can create a variable. Now the data type of name is a string, and if I say age is equals to 24, then the data type of age is integer, right? Similarly, if I say print age, that's going to print out 24. If I want to create a list, for example fruits, then I need to use square brackets, and inside that list I can define all the elements. Apple, that's going to be my first element, comma, grapes, comma, banana, comma, mango. So as we all know, list is a collection of data. In the list we can add multiple elements. So here I have created a list called fruits, inside which the element are apple, grapes, banana, mango. So when I say print fruits, that's going to print out the whole list, right? This is my third data type. Then what next we have explored in the previous webinar was dictionaries. So in order to create dictionaries, you have to use curly brackets. So I'll create a dictionary, let's say about the data of employee. So we can say employee is my dictionary name, and dictionaries are created with the help of curly brackets. Inside a dictionary we get to see a key and then the value for that key. So all of this has been explained in the previous webinar. So if you are not able to understand these things, then you must have a look onto that webinar. I'll put a link of that webinar as well into the chat box. Inside the employee dictionary, I'll first of all define the key name. So my key name is going to be name, like this. Then the value for this key name can be defined by using a colon and Chirag. That's my first key, which is called name, and Chirag is the value for that key. After putting a comma, I can define another key, let's say organization. Then colon, define the value for organization, that's going to be PyNet Labs, like this. comma, third key is going to be location, let's say, and I can define the value as Delhi inside it like this. Then if I want to close the dictionary, I'll use another curly bracket and I'll hit enter. Now employee is the dictionary inside which I have three keys: name, organization and location, and these three keys has the value Chirag, PyNet Labs and Delhi respectively. So if I just want to print out Chirag, I can simply say print employee, then square bracket, name, then close the square bracket, close the print bracket and hit enter. So that's just simply going to print out Chirag. That's how you can navigate through the data from any dictionary or any list. This is all we have discovered and we have learned in the last webinar. Now let's see what we are going to explore about today. So I'll minimize this and I will open the VSCode. VSCode is IDE, just like we have just used the interpreter. Just like that, VSCode can also be used for running the Python scripts. I'll create a new file, go to the file section, say new file, select text file, then I'll say save it, Ctrl+S. I'm going to save it on the desktop. Let's say webinar.py. I'll save it as a Python file and it is ready to be used. Inside this also I can create dictionary list. It's basically the same way I have worked with the interpreter. It's just that now the execution will not happen line by line. It will happen when I'll click on this play button. Only then I can say that the commands or whatever script I have created will be executed. So let's see how it works. For example, if I want to say print bracket 10 plus 5 and I hit enter, then it just not prints out the 15 as the value. But if I do the same thing in the interpreter, if I say print bracket 10 plus 5, then I close the bracket and I hit enter, then it prints out the 15 as the output. But in the case of IDE, which is this VS Code, it will only print out the thing when I click on this run button. So run Python file. When I click on this, a terminal will be opened up and inside the terminal you will find the output, which is 15. So this is the difference between, we can say, the interpreter and the IDE. Now the plus here is the arithmetic operator, which is used for addition. Similarly, you can use minus for the subtraction. For example, print bracket 20 minus 10. Then I will close the bracket and I will hit enter, save the file again, run the file, and there you go. You get the output as 10. That's how basically IDE can be used for running your Python scripts. Now just like we have addition, we have subtraction, we also have multiplication, division, exponentiation, float division, all of that can be done. We will explore some of them. So let's say, and now I'll try to multiply a few values. I'm going to say print bracket 5 asterisk 2, and then I'll save the file, close the terminal, run the file again, and there you go. So first value, which is 15, is the output of 10 plus 5. Second value, which is 10, is the output of 20 minus 10. Third value, which is 10, is the output of 5 multiplied by 2. That's how you can write your Python scripts. Next is about the assignment operator. So the equals to sign which we use is called the assignment operator. Let's say I want to define some variables. So I simply say x is equals to 10 like this, right? Then I can define y as 5. So here this equals to sign will be termed as assignment operator. Now I can say x plus y inside the print function to get the value of 10 plus 5. So print bracket x plus y, and when I run the file again, I get the output as 15, which is the output of 10 plus 5. If I change this plus to, let's say, slash, then this will be division, right? So 10 will be divided by 5 and the output should be 2. So let's run the file again. There you go. We got the output as 2. These are called the operators. Now we will try to create a list again, and we will try to play around with that list a little more. So I'll create the same list of fruits. Fruits is equals to square bracket. I'll define the first element as apple, comma, second element as banana, comma, grapes. That's it. If let's say I just want apple as my output, then I have to specify the index number of apple. So we need to understand this one thing which is very important when it comes to list. Your list will always begin from the index number 0. What does that mean? Apple is at position 0, banana is at position number 1, grapes is at position number 2. Make sense? So if I just want apple to be printed out, what should be the index number which should be used? Please let me know in the chat box. Correct. So that's going to be print. I'll call my list name, that's fruits. Then inside the square brackets, I'll specify that I'm talking about the index number 0. Save the file, run the file, and there you go. The output is just apple, not the complete list. Similarly, if I change the index number from 0 to 1 and then I run the file again, then the output is simply going to be the element at position number 1. This is at position 0, this is at position number 1. So if I run it now, the output is going to be banana. That's how you can get a specific element from your list. Now there is a function called append which is used against the list to add some elements to your pre-existing lists. For example, here's my list called fruits, right? Fruits is equals to the first element as apple, then the second element is banana, then I can say the third element is grapes. That's my list, right? What I want to do is I want to add an element to pre-existing list. So what I will use is I'll use the append function, fruits dot append bracket element name which I want to add. So let's try this out. Let's say I want to add mango to the list. So what I can do is I am going to say print bracket, or rather fruits dot append bracket. Inside the quotes I'll say that I want to add mango. Save the file, run the file, and you will find that mango must be added into the list called fruits. But how can we be sure about that? We can be sure about this by printing the list again, right? So I'll say print fruits and then I'll save it, then I'll close the terminal, run the file again, and now I can see inside my list I have apple, banana, grapes, and then also mango. So basically append function is being used to add the element at the last position. So mango is being added to the list but at the last position. Now let's say I want to add strawberries as well. So I can simply say fruits dot append bracket strawberry. Save this. Then in the next line I'll say print fruits, and then if I run the file, then there you go. First it printed out banana only because we have a statement here which specifies the script to only print out the element at position number 1, which is banana. Then I said fruits dot append mango. This will add mango to the list, and then I told the script to print out fruits. Now in that output we were able to find mango at the last position. But then in the next line I also said fruits dot append strawberry. So I want to add strawberry as well into the list. Then when I said print fruits, so in the output we can observe that strawberries are also added to the fruits list. That's how basically append function can be used. But let's say I want to add strawberries after apple. So basically I want to specify this position for adding these strawberries into the list. I want it to be after apple and before banana. So what should be the index number at which I should be placing the strawberry? Can you guys let me know in the chat box? So apple is at position number 0. If I want strawberry to be at the position which is next to apple, then I need to define it at position number 1, right? So in such scenarios where you want to add the element at a specific index, adding an element at a specific index number would require the function called insert. So using the insert function, we can add the element at a specific position. So insert bracket, I'll specify the index number. So that's going to be 1, correct? You have already given the responses in the chat. So that's going to be 1, comma, space, I will put the element name. That's strawberry. So by using this insert function, the strawberry will not be added at the end of the list. Instead of that, it will be added at the index number 1. So let's try this out. I'll remove the last 2 statements and then I'm going to say fruits dot insert bracket the index number, which is going to be 1, comma, the element name. So strawberries. Like this. Then in the next line I can say print fruits. Save the file, delete the terminal, run the file again, and there you go. So first we have the output as banana, then we have the output where we have added the mango. Then in the next output we can see after apple there is strawberries which is added into the list. Earlier when I was using append function, the strawberries were getting added at the end, right? But now since I have specified the index number, it will be added at position number 1. Make sense? Now we will understand how we can remove some elements. So if you want to remove the last element of the list, you simply have to use the pop function, which is fruits.pop, then empty parenthesis. That's it. This is going to remove the last element of your list. So print fruits. As of now, as per the latest output, the last element is mango. But after saying fruits.pop, the mango should be removed, right? So let's run the script again. Let's see. And we can see that in the next output, mango is no longer there inside that list. But what if I want to specifically remove banana? Then I need to specify the index number, right? So I'll again write the same thing. Fruits.pop bracket, and inside the bracket I'll specify the index number of banana, which should be what? Which should be 0, 1 and 2. So it should be 2, right? So inside the pop function I'll specify 2. Then I can say print fruits, and then I can run the file again. There you go. Now banana is no longer there in the list, right? So as per the recent output, we can see that banana is removed. So basically .pop function can be used to remove the last element, and if you specify the index number inside it, you will be able to remove the specific element from the list. So I'll write it down here. To remove an element from a pre-existing list, all you have to do is this. And to remove a specific element, all you have to do is this. That's how basically you can manage the list a little bit. You can add the elements, you can remove the elements, you can add elements at the end, you can remove elements from the end. Then similarly you can also specify the index numbers. Now comes the dictionaries. Dictionaries are going to be managed with some similar kind of functions which we have observed here in the list. So let's see how dictionaries work. So again, I'll create the dictionary. We'll observe that how dictionaries are working. For the time being, I'll just take a screenshot of this so that I can create notes for you guys and I can share it in the Telegram group. Now, we will be looking into dictionaries. So I'll create a dictionary first of all. I'll try to use the same employee data like I have taken the example earlier. So let's see, employee. May I know what kind of bracket should be used for creating the dictionaries? Yeah, so it should be curly brackets, right? So I'll create a curly bracket and then I'll define the first key. That's going to be my name. Name, colon, Chirag, like this, comma, I can define my next key, organization, so org, colon, it's going to be PyNet Labs, comma, next is, let's say, my role, so role, colon, instructor, then courses, it can be. So when it comes to courses, I have a list of courses which can be delivered by me. So I'll create a list here. And the first element of the list is going to be CCNA, comma, CCNP, comma, CCIE. These are all the elements. Now, if I want specifically courses to be printed out, then I really don't have to worry about the index numbers. This is the benefit of having the data in the form of dictionaries. When it comes to list, you have to remember all the index number to get specific with the data. But when it comes to dictionaries, all you need is the name of your key and you are good. So all I would require is the name of the key. So that's courses, right? So I'll say print employee square bracket. Inside the square bracket, I'll define the key name as courses. Like this. Now, if I run the script, so the output should be the list of courses. There you go. CCNA, CCNP, CCIE. But the question is, what if I want specifically CCNP to be printed out? Then in that case, I'll have to get to the index numbers because CCNP is a part of list, right? So CCNA is at position 0, CCNP is at position 1. So what I will do is, after courses, I'll add another square bracket where I'll define the index number as 1. Save the script, run the script again. And this time the output is CCNP, not the complete list. That's how you can manage dictionaries also. Now, for example, if I want to redefine some data, if I want to update some information, then I can say employee of, let's say, name, and then I'll use the assignment operator, and then I'll define a new value, let's say Abhijit. Save the script. Then I'll say print employee, which is my dictionary name. So let's see what output do we get. What I have done here at line number 8 is I have redefined the value for name as Abhijit. Now if I run the script, it's going to print out the dictionary, but name is now defined as Abhijit, right? Similarly, you can change the values for other key also, like organization, role, courses. But what if I want to add a new key? What if I want to add location as another key to my dictionary called employee? Then in that case, you have to use upgrade function. Employee dot update bracket. It should be a dictionary, right? So curly bracket, define the key name, that's going to be location, colon, Delhi. Then in the next line, I'll say print employee. So using the update function, I am adding another key called location, which will contain the value Delhi. Let's run the script again and let's see what output do we get. There you go. So first it printed out the previous dictionary at the line number 10 because I stated I want to print employee. Then after that at line number 12 I am saying that I want to add another key called location with the value Delhi. Then I said to print employee again, and now I can see that in my dictionary I have a new key called location and the value for that location is Delhi. That's how you can add key inside your dictionary. I hope this was something which you guys are clear with, right? Now we will go to a next level and we will try to perform some task with the nested list and nested dictionaries. So what is this nested list? Let's try to understand that. Let me take a screenshot. And now we are going to talk about nested list. A nested list is simply a list inside which there is another list. Let's see how. So for example, let's say I have a list of cities. Okay, cities is equals to square bracket. Inside this I'll say the first city or the first state here is going to be, let's say, Haryana, then comma, then I'll say Punjab, then let's say, now I'll create a new list. Okay, inside this I'll define some more cities like Nashik, Pune, then Bangalore, like this, comma, then I'll create a new list where I'll define cities like Jalandhar, Chandigarh, let's say Amritsar, something like this. Now what we need to understand here is that Haryana is at position number 0, Punjab is at position number 1, then at position number 2 there is another list where inside that we have Nashik, Pune and Bangalore. Then at position number 3 we have another list where we have Jalandhar, Chandigarh and Amritsar. In order to manage these lists, what I'll have to do is cities, then if I say I want to print out the index number 2 element, then it's going to print out this complete list. Let's see how. If I run this script now, so basically the element number 2 is a list where we have Nashik, Pune and Bangalore. But what if I want only Pune? Then I'll add a new square bracket and I'll say I want the index number 1. Save this again, run the script again, and you will get your specific output called Pune. Make sense? Similarly, if I want to add some element, let's say I want to add element inside this list, then what I'll have to do is I'll say cities of index number of this list. It's going to be 0, 1, 2 and 3. Cities of 3. So against this element I want to use the insert function bracket, specify at what index number do you want to add the element. So I want to add something after Jalandhar, so that's going to be index number 1, comma, then specify the element name, let's say Patiala. Save this, run the script. Okay, in the next line we'll have to specify that print cities. Okay, save this now, run the script, and there you go. Now Patiala is added inside the list and also at the index number 1. So that's how basically we can add a particular element inside a list which is already a part of list. So this kind of a scenario will be termed as nested list, okay, where we have a list inside a list. Index 2 should be the second element, right? No, it should be the third element, because as I said earlier, in the case of list, the index numbers begin from 0. So the first element of your list, which is basically in this case Haryana, is at position number 0 or the index number 0. then Punjab is at 1, then this is 2, this is 3. That's how it works when it comes to list. Okay. Now just like we have created a list inside the list, there can also be dictionary inside a dictionary. Okay. For example, let's say data is a dictionary. Okay. Inside this, the first key is employee underscore 1 colon. Now the value of employee 1 is another dictionary where the first element is name, like this, then comma, then I can say organization is PyNet, then comma, role is instructor. This completes my first key called employee. Okay, so I'll put a comma here and then I'll define my next key, which is going to be employee underscore 2. For employee 2, I'll create a new dictionary inside which I'll store the information of my second employee. So name. Now this time the name is going to be the name of my second employee. So let's say Abhijit, comma, then organization, PyNet Labs, then comma, role, instructor. So this was a nested list, and this is basically a nested dictionary. We have a dictionary inside the dictionary. Make sense, guys? That's how you can create dictionaries, or you can manage your data by keeping them in the form of lists and dictionaries. Just like you have earlier, you have worked with the dictionary functions, like I was explaining you guys how you can redefine the values. Just like the same way, you can do it in this case also. Okay, so that's how basically you manage your data in the form of Python, and it becomes easy to work around with things like a list of data, or maybe a list of employees data, or something like this, where you have to create another list inside a list. So this was a quick introduction about how you can play around with the dictionaries and the list. Okay, now we are going to talk about conditioning. So let's see how conditioning works and how it is helpful when it comes to writing these scripts. So we are going to talk about if-else statements. Let's see what if-else means. So in the terminology of English also, if-else simply means either this or that, right? If not this, then that. So let's see how it works. For example, let's say a is equals to 10. I have defined a variable called a which contains the integer 10. Then b is equals to 15. Let's say this is my case. Okay, now first of all, using the operators, I will find out that whether b is greater than a or not. So I'll say b greater than sign then a. Save this, run the script. Okay, now if I put it inside the print function, it will print out whether this statement is true or false. So print bracket b is greater than a. So it tells you that yes, the statement you are talking about is true. The b contains a greater value than the container a. Okay, now we will try to write down the same thing using if-else conditioning. So what I'll say is, if a is greater than b, then, which is defined using colon, print bracket a is greater than b, else print bracket a is smaller than b, something like this. So I have created if-else conditioning where I have defined that if A is greater than B, then print out A is greater than B, or otherwise simply print out A is smaller than B. Okay, so I'll save this, I'll try to run the script again. When I run the script, this time the output is A is smaller than B. Why? Because A is 10 and B is 15, so we cannot say that A is greater than B. But if I change the statement a little bit, if I make this B and make this A, so if B is greater than A, then print out B is greater than A, something like this. Otherwise print out B is smaller than A. Let's save this again and let's try to run this again. There you go. Now the output is B is greater than A, because B contains the value 15 and A contains the value 10. That's how if-else conditions are used. So let's look at some more example. Let's say host name is a variable inside which we are going to take input from the user. So input is a function through which you can ask your user about what value they want to store inside a container. Okay, so host name is equals to input. I'll ask my user what is the host name of your device, colon space, enter. Then I can create if-else statement to print out specific outputs. So I can say if host name is equals to, then I'll have to add another equals to. Earlier when we were adding a single equals to, that was assignment operator. So using a single equals to, I assign the values like I have done here, right? But when I say double equals to, that means I want to tell the script that I am talking about equal values. So I'm saying that if host name is equals to router, then is always defined with a colon, then print your device is a router, something like this. Okay, then we can say elif. What is elif? This is else if. If I say else and if are combined together, then we can term them as elif. Elif host name is equals to switch, then again using a colon, print your device is a switch. Else, so otherwise if it is something else, not router, not switch, then print invalid device. Okay, let's see now how this works. So I'll delete the terminal, then run the script again. So first of all, it printed out B is greater than A because of this conditioning. Okay, now it is asking me what is the host name of your device. So I'll say my host name is router, enter. So it prints out your device is a router. Let me delete this and run this again. This time I'll enter switch. Okay, so I'll say what is the host name of your switch? It is switch. So it printed out your device is a switch. Delete this again, then run this again. This time we will try something else, not router, not switch. Let's say what is the host name of your device? Let's say ASA. ASA firewall is my device. So it told me that invalid device. So depending upon what situation you are in, you can create if-else conditions and you can modify your scripts accordingly. So if I tell you about the use cases of this in the field of network automation, then how we simply use it is that we ask the user, do you want to configure physical interface or do you want to configure loopback interface? Then using if-else condition, we define that if user selects physical interface, then do this. If user selects loopback interface, then do this. So we define the set of commands which would be required to configure physical interface if the user has selected physical interface, right? Then similarly, we define the set of commands which would be required to configure a loopback interface if the user had selected the option 2, which was loopback interface. So like that, we can use if-else conditions in the case of network automation. Now, the third thing is about for loops. So let's see what for loops are. Alright, now for loops are basically used for performing a set of commands for a number of times. Okay, for example, let's say I want to run some specific function for 10 times, then I can use a for loop. Let's see how. For example, let's say I have a list. Okay, I'll create the same list about, or let's create a list about vendors this time. So vendors is equals to square bracket, the first element will be CISCO, comma, second element will be Juniper, comma, third element, let's say Huawei, then let's say checkpoint, like this. Okay, this is the set of elements which I have inside the list called vendors. Now what I want is, I want to print out all the elements one by one. So what can be done? I can say print vendors of 0. This will print out CISCO, right? Then I can say print vendors of 1. This will print out Juniper. Then print vendors of 2. This will print out Huawei. And then print bracket vendors of 3. That's checkpoint. Save this, run this, and there you go. The output is CISCO, Juniper, Huawei, checkpoint, all in different lines. This was easy because the elements were 4 only, right? But what if I have around 20 elements inside the list? Then it would be really a big script just to simply print out the names of the elements which are there inside the list, right? So in such a kind of situation, you can take the help of for loops for performing, or we can say for reiterating, a sequence of commands or a set of commands. Let's see how. Now what I will do is I'll use for loops. Let's see how they are created. So for, then I need to specify some pointer name. It can be anything, just like you give some random name to your variables. It can also be anything. Okay, so I'll say for, let's say ABC, in the list name vendors. What you have to do is you have to print ABC. Now let's try to understand this. We are saying for ABC in vendors. Now this ABC is the pointer. First, ABC will have the value of your first element, that is CISCO, and then will execute the set of commands which are under the for loop which you have created. Then ABC will take up the value as Juniper and will perform the set of commands which you have defined under your for loop. Then ABC will have Huawei, then it will do the same thing, then it will have the value checkpoint and will do the same thing. So basically, we will get the list elements printed in different lines by just using these two statements. Let's run this and let's see if it gives us the required output. And there you go. When I run the script, I simply get CISCO, Juniper, Huawei, checkpoint printed all in different lines. Then in the same way, I can add some more commands also under the same for loop condition which I have created. I can say print my vendor name is, and then I can concatenate it with the ABC pointer like this. Okay, so what we are doing here is we are adding a new statement which will say my vendor name is, which is a string. Then we want to add what? We want to add the pointer which is ABC which we have created. So let's see what output do we get. So we should get my vendor name is CISCO, my vendor name is Juniper, Huawei, checkpoint, like that, right? So let's see and observe if it actually works or not. I'll run the script and there you go. So first it printed out CISCO because of this statement, CISCO, then it prints out my vendor name is Cisco. Juniper, my vendor name is Juniper. Huawei, my vendor name is Huawei. Checkpoint, my vendor name is Checkpoint, like that. So basically what I want you guys to understand here is a for loop is basically used for iterating a set of commands which can be used against a list, can be used against a dictionary, can be used against a string, anything. So for loops are very much useful when it comes to programming or when it comes to network automation. How? Let me give you one more example. Let's say I want to add some elements to my list. Okay, so we have learned that how we can simply add one element. We can use the append function, we can use the insert function if we want to specify the location. But what if I want to add two elements? So what to do in that case? Let's see. So first thing which I get in my mind is vendors dot append, then inside the bracket I can define my first element, let's say F5, comma, then I can define my second element, let's say tender. Now in this case, if I try to run the script, I'll get a syntax error because the append function will expect only one input from my side. So I'll show you that. If I try to run the script, I'll get an error here. There you go. So it tells you that it exactly takes one argument and you have given how many? 2. So we cannot add more than one element using the append function. But can I run the append function 2 times by using for loop? Then yes, definitely I can do that, right? So I'll say that for ABC in range bracket. Now this time I have to specify the range or the number of times, how many times I want the execution to happen. So let's say I want it to happen 2 times. So I'll say 0, 2. It will perform the task 2 times. Enter. Inside this for loop, I'll say vendors dot append bracket element, and we will take the input from the user, because in order to add the element, first of all we must understand that what exact element they are willing to add, right? So element is equals to input bracket, please enter the vendor name which you would like to add, something like this. Okay, there you go. I missed on adding the column, that's why it was giving me a red error line there. Now I'll try to run this and let's see what do we get at the end. So inside the loop only, I'll add another statement which will tell the script to print the list called vendors. So when I run the script, it is asking please enter the vendor name which you would like to add. So I'll specify I want to add F5. Enter. So it printed out the list where now we have F5. Then it is asking me again, please enter the vendor name which you would like to add. So I can specify, let's say Palo Alto. Enter. Then in the new list, we definitely have F5 which we have added earlier, but along with that we have also added Palo Alto. And this was possible because of the for loop which we have created. Now let's try to understand this for loop again and let's try to see what exactly is happening here. So I have created a for loop where ABC is my pointer name, and I'm saying that for ABC in range 0, 2. So what does that 0, 2 means? When I define a range, I can specify that how many times I want these set of commands to be executed. Okay. So I wanted it to be executed 2 times, right? So when you define a range like this, the last number is not included. So it will do the execution for 0 and 1. What does that mean? It will do it only 2 times. 0, 2 means 0 and 1, not 2. If I say 0, 3, then it will ask me 3 times, 0, 1 and 2, not 3. Okay, this is the understanding which I want you guys to have. So by doing this, I am defining that how many times I want these commands to be executed. Okay, so when I say 0,3, it will ask me for the first time that what element do you want to add. Then because of line number 5, it will add that element which I have defined here into the list. Then it will print out the list. Okay, then it will do the same thing 2 more times, because inside the for loop I have defined the range as 0,3. I hope this makes sense to you all. If let's say I change the indentation here a little bit and I bring print outside the loop, so these spaces are also very much, we can say, important to understand. If you want some specific statement to be inside your loop, then there must be a set of 4 spaces, or otherwise you can just simply press the tab key. If let's say these spaces are not there, then that statement will not be included inside the loop. Now what will happen? Now execution will happen 3 times, but the list will only be printed out at the end when I have successfully added all the elements. Let's see how. So if I run the script now, it will ask me, please enter the vendor name you would like to add. I would like to add F5, enter. Again asking me add the enter the vendor name which I want to add. So Palo Alto. Then again, so let's say enter. And then at the end it printed out the complete list where we have F5, Palo Alto, Tenda. Earlier when the statement was inside the for loop, the statement of printing the vendors was also executed 3 times, right? 3 times or 2 times, whatever you define here inside the range. But now, since it is not the part of for loop, we are only getting the output at the end. Make sense, guys? Any questions? If you are having any doubts or questions, feel free to put your questions into the chat box. Great. That's how basically for loops can be used, and along with that you can basically perform a set of commands or set of you can say functions a multiple number of times. Now there is one more thing which you can add into this scenario, which is this number. Instead of directly putting the number, I can ask my user as well that how many elements do you want to add. So let's say user underscore choice is equals to int of input, enter the number of elements you want to add, something like this. So when I say int of input, what does that mean? Whatever value will be taken, it will be considered as an integer. Otherwise, by default, input takes the value as string. Okay, so we need to specify that this is going to be an integer. Then I can say for ABC in range 0, user choice. I can call my variable. So if my user puts 2 here, then the set of commands will be executed 2 times. If my user put 10 here, then these commands will be executed 10 times. So I am not putting any static value. Instead of that, I am giving the choice to the user. So let's see how this works. I'll run the script. Enter the number of elements you want to add. I want to add, let's say, 2 elements. Enter the vendor name which you would like to add, F5. Enter the element name which you would like to add, Palo Alto, enter. And we can see at the end we have Cisco, Juniper, Huawei, Checkpoint, F5, Palo Alto. If let's say I selected 3 here, then this execution would have happened 3 times. That's how you can manage things inside the for loop also. And that's how the Python for loops are so much used and so much we can say helpful to any programmer or any network automation engineer. Now the next thing which we are going to look at is the Python functions. So we have till now discovered a lot of functions, right? We have discovered the append function, we have talked about the insert function, we have talked about the print function, we have talked about we can say update function and many more, right? So can I define some functions? Yes, I can also define functions by myself. So for example, let's say I want to define a function, then what I need to do is I need to use def and then define the function. Let's see how. I'll delete all of this and now I'm going to define a function. So I can say def and then name the function, let's say addition, give parentheses to define that this is addition, then colon to define what exactly addition is. Addition is basically, let's say, a plus let's say, yeah, addition is equals to c is equals to a plus b. Okay, a plus b, enter. Then I can say print c. This is my function called addition. Now inside this function I can put a and b as required parameters. Now if I say addition, if I call this function, create the brackets, then it will expect two entries from myself, a and b. What's going to be a? Let's say a is 10, comma, what is b? B is, let's say, 5. That's all what I need to define. After that, if I run the script, then it's going to print out 15 because I have already defined print c inside my function addition. So when I'm telling addition bracket 10 comma 5, it is going to execute these two commands for 10 and 5. So it is actually c is equals to 10 plus 5, then print c. So that's why we get the output as 15. Make sense? Now this addition is not something which is predefined into the Python. This is something which I have defined. Then similarly, I can say define subtraction bracket a comma b, and then I can say c should be equals to a minus b, and then print c. Something like this. Okay. Similarly, I can define multiplication. Define multiplication bracket a comma b, right, colon, c is equals to a asterisk b, enter. Then I can say print c. Now the question is, what is the benefit of defining all these? Why can't I simply perform the task? The benefit is that I can now call these functions in some other script also. For example, if I create a new file now, I'll save it as new underscore file.py. If I save it like this, what I can do is I can say from the file called webinar, I want to import addition, comma, subtraction, comma, multiplication, like this. And then I can use addition, subtraction, multiplication here also. So I'll just have to say addition bracket 5 comma 10. Save this, and if now I run this new file which I have created, if I run this file now, then it will perform the addition of 5 and 10 for me. This kind of programming or this kind of scripting is called the optimized way of writing any script. So I have defined a function called addition, which now can be used in all of my other scripts. I have defined a function called subtraction, which now can be used in all of my other scripts. Make sense, guys? Similarly, we can also use multiplication here. So we will not required to define what exactly we are supposed to do. We just have to give the inputs. So I want the multiplication of 2 and 10. All I need to do is write multiplication bracket 2 comma 10, and when I run the script, there you go. We got the result, which is 20. Why? Because multiplication again is defined in a particular Python file where it tells the script to multiply the values and then print out the output. And then we are calling that multiplication function here in a new file, and we are getting the outputs directly. So this is the optimized manner, or we can say the good way of performing any particular task through Python scripts or through creating or defining some functions into the Python. Make sense, guys? So that was all about today. I have talked about how lists work, how dictionaries work, how lists can be modified, or how elements can be added to the list, then how the elements can be removed from the list. Similarly, we have learned that how dictionaries can be updated, how dictionaries can be modified, or how specific values can be taken out of lists and dictionaries. Then we also looked into some operators like greater than operator, smaller than operator. We looked into if-else conditioning. Then we also looked into how we can add multiple elements into a pre-existing field, pre-existing list by using the for loop, right? We looked into how for loop are beneficial in iterating multiple commands. Then at the end, we have also looked into how we can define some functions by ourselves. So we don't have to rely upon always the predefined functions. There can be scenarios where you will have to define a particular function for yourself, right? You have a specific kind of commands which you want to perform again and again. So all you want is, you want that function, you define that function, then call that function everywhere you want. You have no limits, right? So all of that can be achieved via Python and can be used very well in the case of network automation. So we explore many more things related to all this into our DevNet training. So I hope you guys enjoyed the content of this particular webinar. You found this interesting and exciting to learn. So that was all for today. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the session. I'll see you again maybe in some another webinar. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.